So I made this post on Threads the other day, or I guess it was just yesterday, and it got about 4,000 views and a decent amount of engagement. And as you guys know from my second channel, that whenever something like this happens with a thread post, I usually feel like it's going to make for good content on that channel. And so I figured since this was more of a beat making topic, it would fit very nicely on this channel. And so I said, you don't need to be a mixing genius. Simple leveling, EQ, and a splash of reverb and delay is all you need most of the time. And I think this is fundamentally true no matter what you're doing in mixing. It could even go as far as like mixing audio and effects for like a freaking movie. But especially this is very true for beats and stuff like that. Now, when you get into vocals, you might need a little, like a sprinkle of compression, but depending on how good your tracking and your mic is, sometimes you kind of don't even need that. But we'll talk about vocals another day. Probably not, but let's get into talking about how we can apply this to a beat, for example. So I've got this acoustically cinematic beat that I was working on yesterday. I will post the cook-up for it on my third channel, which is the plug channel. So take a listen really quickly. So it's already super hard, but the thing is that it's not mixed at all, right? It's already sounding really good. So one of the most fundamental things about mixing, which we say all the time, is that good sound selection and just like beat making competency, musical competency, is like really half of the mixing process. So that's really important. You pretty much can't combat that. If you suck at that part, your mix is, there's nothing you can do, because mixing is just polishing. So you can't polish shit. It's going to be shit no matter what. So you really want to have like a gem that you're just polishing the scuffs off of. That's really how you want to look at your mixing process. So if you do need really good sounds, check out my free 7-kit bundle where you'll get the 16 drum kit. It's really good. People love it. It's one of the best trap drum kits out there right now. It's my stash kit from 2025. You'll love it. And then if you really want to tap in with my sounds and you want stuff from like my placements and viral beats, check out the Centerfold drum kit, which is what I used here. That being said, let's get into the mixing, right? Super simple stuff that we're going to do today. Gonna move that all the way to the top, and we're just gonna route everything. We're not gonna do any buses. We're not gonna do any side chaining. We're just gonna do simple concepts, like I said. But that being said, I do want to go back because there were some interesting comments all over the place. But one comment that I thought was very interesting here was, let me see if I can find it. I guess he deleted it. I guess he didn't like my reply to his comment. It's kind of stupid. This one's pretty funny though. But there was a guy that commented basically, this applies except if you like sound design. My response to it was, no, this applies especially if you like sound design, because nowhere would it be more relevant for you to need to lock in on the basic fundamentals of your mix than if you're doing a lot of sound design. Now, in my personal mixing philosophy, which you don't have to be super dogmatic about, it's just how I approach things, I don't include sound design in mixing, right? So if I'm adding, say, flanging or portal to a sound, I'm not really doing it from the mixing perspective. And a lot of times I don't even do it in the mixer these days, right? So for example, for this repro sound that I added, I used my portal and my flanging in a patcher chain, right? So it's not even coming into the mixer, right? Or it's coming into the mixer already sound design and stuff like that. But if I do sound design on the mixer, I'm not necessarily considering that mixing, right? When I'm thinking mixing, I'm thinking leveling, EQ, reverb, delay, stuff for spatial and stereo manipulation and compression. It's like, that's pretty much all I'm thinking of in terms of mixing, which is why I think this very simplistic approach is going to be very helpful. So let's get into it. We want to start with that big three always. So let's just bring down all of our tracks. Make sure we've got that clipper on the master. Excellent. And then you just want to start, I like to start with the 808. You know, the big three is your three elements that you want to be the loudest. So it starts with the low end, which you're going to want to be the loudest. So I've got an 808 and a kick in this beat. So those are going to be the loudest things. Those are going to be the anchor of our mix. That's tough. Now let's bring in that kick. Simple stuff, bro. Now I'm bringing in some EQ, right? Just to roll off a little bit of that low end mud off the 808 so it like fits a little bit tighter with my kick. And right, we're still doing simple stuff here. Listen to how tight it is now. I can even do a little bit of that on my kick too. Super clean, super tight. Let's give a little bit of gain push into my clipper. It's like 1 decibel is probably fine. Ooh, that's clean. That EQ is gonna affect how loud that 808 is coming in, so we gotta level that. I like that. Now the second element of your big three is gonna be your main snare, your main clap, so let's bring that in. You want that to be loud and present, but not louder than your low end. And then the last element is going to be your melody. And since I have so many melodic tracks, what I'm going to do is route all of them to one track and then level all of those. And then I'll come back in and level all of the melodies against the other elements of my big three. So let's get into leveling the melody, starting with this piano. And actually, let's level just this against the big three so far, and then we'll use that as an anchor for all the other melodic elements. That's good. So let's turn those off. Then we have some accent strings that come in during the second 16 bars. Let's bring those in now. And so I want those accent strings to kind of have their own room reverb, like a specific kind of like reverb characteristic to it. So what I'm going to do is actually take those and route them to their own kind of like accent string track. And then I'm going to still route this track to the overall melody bus. What I'm going to do is come in here and just add some simple reverb from Neoverb. And my go-to usually when I do this is going to be this orchestral string section from Neoverb. It's just a really nice clean preset. So good. So good. Then we have just one more sound that we need to level in, which is kind of like this pad glitched reverb sound, you know, the thing that had the portal and the flanging on it. So let's go ahead and level that in. So hard. All right, now let's start it from the top and level it against the other two elements of the big three. So let's bring that all the way down to 0 and then level it in. Nice. Now we can bring in that equalizer, clean up the low end so that nothing gets in the way of that 808 and that kick. That's going to have everything sitting way tighter in the mix. All right, we haven't done anything complicated yet, just leveling, EQ, delay, and reverb. Now let's add some delay for width. And a little bit of reverb, just a splash, like I said. In fact, let's go Lux Verb. Let's go Lux Verb. And then kind of moving off of the equalization concept, I like to just equalize some of the low end trash. It's more or less invisible, but overall it's going to really balance the mix, especially when you're playing on bigger systems and more powerful monitors. Just anything that's not like an 808 or a kick, I'll usually just hit the console EQ and bring it down at that 90 hertz, 18 decibel cut, negative 18 decibel cut. And then once you have like your big three set up, bro, it's literally just about leveling in literally everything else to just make sure that it's present, but that it does not overpower any of those other big three elements. So again, the big three is number one, all your low end stuff, 808 kick. Then number two is your main snare clap. It does not include accent snares. That would be leveled in after the fact, right? And depending on how present you want it, it might be a little bit louder, it might be a little bit lower, but you never want it to overpower that main snare. And then number three is your melody. It could be just the singular lead melody, and then you end up leveling in every other kind of melodic texture as more of like a complementary thing. And that's where it would be, you want it to be present, but not necessarily louder than that lead melody, or you could just level in the entire melody as a composite. An important caveat is that if you were mixing vocals, the lead vocal, you know, the vox, the rapper, the singer, would take the place of the melody instead, right? So then your big three would be low end, main snare, and the vocals, and then the melody would be something that you level in with the consideration that your big three is already the most present stuff, and then you'd want the melody to be loud and present but not overpowering any of the big three, which would include the vocal in that case. But since we're working on a beat, the melody takes place of that vox. So we're just going to level in basically the only other two elements we have, which are the hats. And bro, if you want like some added sauce, use EQ on your master to kind of like make shit shine a little bit. Now this is going to be a little bit easier if you have tonal balance, but once you figure out like how to use curves and how to basically hear what's going on, you can do it even if you don't have something like tonal balance. But it's just easier because tonal balance is literally going to show you the frequency distribution. So basically we can rename this so that it appears labeled in tonal balance, because isotope plugins communicate across your entire digital audio workstation, which is just so cool. And then we can go to the one labeled master, and then we can EQ based on this frequency distribution so that we get a little bit more shine and a little bit more pop based on this reference, this custom reference module that I've set up. Basically, it's like you can set up your own algorithms in tonal balance to get like specific audio characteristics based on like tracks that you really like the sound of. That's why I love this. This is so cool. But again, this is still EQ, right? We haven't done anything like compression or, you know, the only concept we've used so far outside of equalization, leveling, reverb, and delay is a little bit of soft clipping, right? And really that's just like kind of, it's compression, right? But we're really using it in terms of leveling, right? All I did was push a little bit of gain into the soft clipper, and that's a no-brainer. You've got to start with your soft clipper always, bro. Always start with your soft clipper on the master. There's a little bit of hiss right around like 7400 due to the hats. We can take care of that. Give it a little bit more mid-range polish. So that's what I've got for you today. If you have any questions, ask them down in the comment section below, or consider joining my Discord where you can ask questions too. If you want instant and detailed replies to your questions though, consider joining my mentorship group. That'll be linked down in the description below along with the Discord, especially if you want access to our 13 lesson mixing module that we're going to be doing over the next couple of months. It's going to be really good stuff. So if you want to learn not only these basic fundamentals, but some of the most powerful techniques that you can use to make your mix sound good, no matter what the situation is and no matter what you have access to, definitely check out my mentorship group down in the description below. Let me know if you want to see more videos like this where we just have conversations in candor, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.